Hope you guys are having a super solid day. If you're new here, my name is Will. I'm a drift car driver and fabricator down here in Blue Mountain Beach, Florida, baby. Thank you for clicking on one of my videos. This is going to be a little bit different style video than what I would normally film, more of like a how-to, and show you guys this fancy little way of throwing an alignment on your car from home. I use this technique pretty much every time before a drift event. I always like having my car super dialed in and or as dialed in as I can get it. If it'll work on a full-blown race car, drift car, that sort of thing, then it'll definitely work on a street car, more daily driver, all the way up to a race car, as you can see. So it's really not that hard. You don't really need that much stuff to do it. If you didn't have what you need, you could pretty much go pick it up for easily under $100 at the Home Depot. So gonna save you some money there as well. So this car in particular, as you can see, has quite a lot of adjustability on it, thanks to all these Part Shop Max arms in the back. This is their limit brake kit, full drop knuckle, and breakaway toe plates, the whole 9 yards on this. We're not going to be adjusting too many things today, just toe and camber. Some of the other stuff, like the track width, I've just widened this a little bit because I'm changing some of the setup on my car. And the traction arm, lengthening that to have a little bit different characteristic on the knuckle. If you're doing this on a normal street car or just a car that doesn't have adjustable rod ends on it, you're going to be doing most of your adjustment from what's called the eccentric bolt. This car still has the eccentric bolt on them, on top of the fact of having adjustment. That said, if you are doing this on a car with a lot of adjustable arms, I would say while you have the car up in the air, either on a lift or on jack stands, go ahead and get everything broken loose ahead of time, because we are going to be doing this on the ground, and it's much easier if all your adjustments are just nice and loose. So when you do squeeze up under the car, you can get in there and just make a quick adjustment, not have to worry about breaking the jam nuts loose. So before we can make any adjustments on the car does need to be sitting on the ground with all of its weight on it. So depending on how low to the ground your car is, if you're doing this on a truck or SUV, obviously you don't need to worry about this. These are my little lift ramps to get low cars up on the lift post. Piece of wood, you could go to Home Depot, get something, as long as it's big enough to have the tire sit on it and get the car up a couple inches or whatever you need for your car. It's gonna make it a lot easier. Next thing you're gonna need is, this might sound a little bit weird, but you're gonna need 4 pretty good sized trash bags, and I'll show you what the trash bags are for. It's a nifty little trick, and what this is for is you're gonna put this on top of the wood, and it's super slick. So when you make your adjustments on the tire, with all the weight of the car on everything still sitting down, you can make your adjustments and the whole wheel and everything just moves like no problem. On that point, it is important that you have your car somewhat secure and like on good level ground, because you are going to be putting it up on wood with plastic, you know, so it can be moving around. You don't want it to fall off, obviously, while you're under there. Take some quick little straps. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, just some sort of way of holding the steering wheel. If you're going to be doing any front end alignment, this is really important. I just take these little, the pull kind you get from Harbor Freight. If you have like a seat with a hole, like a race seat that's got the 5th point location. If you don't have that, you could try to go from maybe hook somehow around like where your seat bolts in or something. You'll have to get like you'll have to get crafty, have to get like MacGyver. The next thing you're gonna need, I do this all the time, so I have like my fancy already pre-made metal pipes that are perfectly cut down to size with a little slit in the end of it. If you don't have this, you can just go to Home Depot, get some really cheap PVC, the cheapest kind they have, doesn't have to be anything fancy, and get some. You're gonna want 2 pieces that are a little bit wider than the car, and then you just need to cut some slits in them. So it is pretty important that you make the cuts exactly the same width. Maybe go from center in case your actual overall length is different. That doesn't matter. It's just that these 2 slits are exactly the same space apart from each other. It doesn't matter how much is hanging out the end. It just means they need to be lined up on both ends like that. See, so I would just say cut some, maybe clamp these 2 pipes together, cut it both at the same time, and then measure your width, cut these other 2 at the same time, and you should be good to go. whatever you want to use as weights. They sell these things. I think I got these at Harbor Freight. That this is called a plumb bob, I want to say, and it's already got like a little threaded piece on the end of it that makes it easier to tie your string to it. But you can see on the other side, I literally just have some scrap steel, some 1/4-inch plate from around the shop, just something that's like of equal weight, that's got some pretty good weight to it. So when you actually stretch your string out, it'll keep it nice and tight and keep it ready to go for you. And you can get your measurements and keep it nice and accurate. One thing I like to use on my alignments is a little metric tape measure. This thing this thing makes life a whole lot easier to do your alignments and metric. I'm really excited So when you're setting up your string, what I like to do is go from the center cap of the wheel, measure off of your string, see where you're at. Then you're gonna go around to the other side, from around here, measure it, get this string to where it's the same distance on both sides of the car, get that set, do the same thing with the front, side to side, recheck the back, if you need to move it, redo the front. You might have to go back and forth a couple times if your things were like at a super weird angle. So as far as actually doing your camber, there's a couple different ways. I like to use this little digital gauge. You're gonna want something better than a level though, that's definitely for sure. Either a dial gauge or some sort of little digital readout. And if your tire is a little bit more bulgy than like pushing out past the wheel, you need to get it sized where it's just right on the wheel, because the tire could be pushed off, you know, further one side or the other. If your tire kind of does like mine and pulls back away from the wheel, then you're good. It can kind of overhang a little bit. Throw that bad boy up like that, throw your gauge on it, get it zeroed out, throw it on there like that, and that's your camber reading. Super easy. Alright, so checking your toe, now that you got your string set up. The other thing I didn't mention earlier, you want to have your string set at the center height of the tire, and then use the same reference point when you check. So I like to use this little lip inside the wheel. It kind of sticks out, and I'll push the tape measure all the way up against that. 176, 180. So I got 176 on the back, 180 on the front, so that's going to be 4 millimeters of toe in on this side. So if you're going total, that would be 8 millimeters of toe in total, which is that's a pretty good bit. I don't want to run quite that much. I used to run at least that much or more. I like a lot of toe in, but lately I've just been, with this new knuckle and everything, I've been keeping the car a little bit looser. It just doesn't need quite that much toe in it. Plus we've been running more banks and everything at Clutch Kickers, which that was a struggle. We had to keep pulling grip out of the car just over and over and over, trying to get the car loose enough to go run the bank. So I've got the camber dialed in, I've got the toe dialed in, this thing's looking good, but I have just made a shocking discovery. I am almost embarrassed to admit, the way I used to measure my caster was far more inaccurate than I thought it was, and it is atrociously bad. I'm going to show you guys the new way I'm measuring my caster now, and it's a kind of a tricky way to do it, but it should be pretty accurate. This thing had 4.65 degrees of caster, which for a stock style knuckle that doesn't have a trailing hub, that is outrageously low. I don't know how I was driving this car. I'm really excited to fix it and go drive it, because it should be like 20 times better. Alright, so between now and that last clip y'all just watched, it's a new day. I went surfing, broke my toe, so we're gonna keep doing it the way I started to do it the other day, just at least for the rest of this video, and then when the tools get here, I'm gonna make it even more precise. Figured this morning I would actually get a couple clips. Even though I have a broken toe, I can be like kind of careful and do it with like the ball of my foot. Get some clips on the sim, because I know you guys have been asking to get more sim stuff, so I'm doing some prototype stuff with having the actual handbrake on here with fluid in there. That's something I want to, it's like really crudely hooked up right now, but I want to get that dialed in and actually be able to sell that on the Motorsports site. So you can get some clips, do some sim driving. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. So yeah. Alright, so back on alignment stuff, I'm going to show you guys how the new way that I'm measuring my caster, I think it's way more accurate than the way I was going to do it before, or the way I was doing it before. So I'm going to pick it up, turn the wheel 20 degrees this way, make sure that this is vertically, zeroed out. Measure the camber at 20 degrees this way, and then zero the gauge. And this is pretty much exactly how the nice fancy tools do it. They just are a little bit more precise, and they have the turntables where you can see exactly the degrees and all that stuff. But I just know this is going to be 10 times more accurate than the way I was going to do it before. It still should be in the ballpark, at least until those tools get here. But I'm going to throw this gauge back on there with it zeroed from the other way, and basically measure the camber here, times that by 1.5, and that should be your caster reading. Throw this gauge on there. It changes the degree just slightly, so I try to put it a little bit extra so that when I lower the car it kind of lands more on the 20 degrees, or at least close enough to like hopefully be accurate. Now what I'll do, double check that this is dead on. Camber, zero the gauge. Now this is zeroed, keep this on. Lift it up, turn it the other 20 degrees. Now you throw your gauge on there. So the gauge is reading 4.1. So 4.1 times 1.5 is 6.15 degrees of caster. I want to go a little bit more than that. Try it, change it, keep testing it. I'm really excited to go drive it with like proper S chassis caster of like in between 6 and 7 on this new knuckle and all that stuff. I've always thought this knuckle felt good, but like something was off with it. I always thought something was off with it, and it's just my dumb ass for lining the car wrong. So you should probably not even listen to this video, probably just watch it for entertainment and to make fun of me in the comments. So go drop something mean down there, I love to hear it. Sometimes people ask me why it takes so long for me to do things, and it's because of things like this, where I'll start to do something and then find an issue or go down some rabbit hole of like fixing things, and this is no different. When I went to do caster on the other side, I kept having to adjust it like so far different from the other side just to get the caster the same. And I was getting really confused, thinking something was bent or whatever. So I started looking at the power braces, noticed something really weird. This power brace, where it bolts to the car, I guess the nut that's welded on the inside of the frame rail has completely come off, because the bolt was just like dangling in there really loose, and I didn't think I was gonna be able to get it out. I was able to wedge it a little bit as I was trying to unscrew it and get it off the nut. A riv nut's not gonna necessarily be as strong as I would like it to be. I guess the best way to fix it, it's just a lot of work, is to cut a little piece of this frame rail out. This is how I would normally do it for like when I do tube fronts and you need to add threads for this. Put the nut in there, weld the nut on the inside of this, and then put the flap, bend it back down, re-weld it, grind it smooth so you can't even tell it was ever messed with, and then it would have the piece, a little nut or threads welded back on the inside of it. So that's kind of the beauty of a riv nut, is you can add threads inside of something to make it easier for things like that, but when you need it to be really strong, it's kind of, this is the frustrating thing about trying to add threads on the inside of something. So I think what I've decided to do, found a nut that would fit it, and it's got this nice little flange on it. So I'm gonna put this nut on the lathe, turn down the hex a little bit so it'll fit inside this hole. Probably grind this down, this area around it, a little bit extra so I can get this thing to sit in here as close to flush as possible. Probably tack it, grind it a little bit more so I can have a place to fill in, get nice penetration on the weld, and then grind it all smooth, and it should still have enough meat on the weld to be nice and strong. Stronger than a riv nut, still got plenty of thread up in there, and I don't run the risk of the riv nut walking on me and moving around, which I hate it when that happens. It's such a nightmare to get it back out. So after some tinkering, so after a little bit of slicing and dicing on the lathe, I got this sweet little threaded insert. Hopefully you guys can see that nice. Worked out really good, just use a nut that I already had, shape it down a little bit, and now I just need to barely open that hole up. That way I have a nice good clean hole to put this insert in, can tack it up, grind around it like I said, and should be good to go. But to keep from making this video way too long, hopefully you guys could get some sort of value out of this or some entertainment from watching me not know how to align a car properly and then try to teach you how to do it on YouTube when I'm clearly bad at it on my caster. But anyways, hope that helped on at least the toe and the camber. Quick little shameless plug, Lenton Motorsports, the fab shop, that's what I do. Welding, tube work, exhaust, intercooler piping, random little things welded, roll cages, anything like that. And I'm in Blue Mountain Beach, so if you guys need anything like that, hit me up. Relentless Co. or relentless.co. It's a clothing brand, lifestyle, like motorsports based brand. Go check it out. Anyways, quick little shameless plug. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.